Welcome back to the Black Letter Podcast. We set out to create an entertaining and exciting podcast about law and business. Black Letter, the name, comes from the Gothic typeset. Over time, Black Letter became the only font that English law books were printed in. It made it harder for kind of the common person to understand what the English law books said. Black Letter came to represent something that was law, that was set in stone, that was sort of old and a well-settled fundamental principle of law. We're here to demystify black letter law. We're here to demystify things that happen in business and law and where those two meet. And I hope you have fun listening. Thanks for joining us, the Black Letter Podcast. This is Tom Dunlap. I'm back here with Steve Fretzin from Be That Lawyer, who you met on our last show, where he talked about selling shoes in a mall and how he developed his career as a coach for lawyers in one of the hardest, I think, and most important skills that most lawyers do not have, which is asking for money and the soft sell and the long sell and the things that nobody's trained for in law school. I have found that you either can do or you can't do. I would say there's no amount of coaching that can get a lawyer who doesn't have it naturally into somebody who can. But Steve does not agree, and that's his career. So he's got to be right, which is fantastic. And I'm hoping he's going to work with some of our lawyers. So Steve, welcome back. I'm convinced that there are lawyers that exist that they say, and they'll join the firm and they're partner level lawyers, brilliant at whatever it is, IP law or tax law or whatever they do, but they can't for the life of them. They say, I want to build a book. And then they come to the law firm and then they just don't build a book. They end up becoming service partners and working and saying, okay, well, do you have work for me? And they're more concerned about that than the book, or they just either they don't have, and it's not even like it's not that they're not attending things. They're going to the chamber events or the bar events or whatever it is, and they know people, but they just don't develop business for whatever reason. And maybe it's the ask, maybe it's the personality, but they just don't. So what is your answer to that? Because you are the guru of this. That's your profession.
Yeah, been there, done that, seen it all over the last 16 years working with lawyers. I would say the number one thing is, do they have the motivation to focus energy and time and money on business development, to make that a part of their career, a part of their trajectory, that they're going to invest time actually getting out there and being active? And it sounds like what you're saying is that many do, and I agree. That runs into the second challenge. What do I do? What do I say? How do I approach? Who are my targets? There's like all these different pieces of the puzzle that aren't being put together first. So they're just going out and they're spending hundreds and hundreds of hours a year, billable time, being nothing but frustrated and disappointed with the lack of results because they didn't have a plan. They didn't have a methodology to use. So it's a similar situation. I'm a non-lawyer, but I'm going to go try some very high profile cases. I'm just going to walk into the courtroom. Look, I've seen my cousin Vinny. I've seen a few Law and Orders, right? I must know what I'm doing. So I'm just going to go out and spend time getting beat up by judges in a courtroom. That's not how it's done, right? You need to get the education piece. You need to have some time working with mentors to become great as a lawyer. Same thing with business development. Yet most lawyers don't invest time, energy, money, whatever, even buying a book, as simple as buying a book, to learn the simplest, elements of networking or business development.
Well, and even if they buy the book, maybe they don't execute on the book. So, but another side to that coin, there are people that I have met, and I have never in my life had a plan for business development, even though I'm aware of the courses. Not for 1 second have I had a list of things I'm going to do or targets. I just meet people, chat with them, and then usually they're like, oh, I could use some help with that, or do you do this? I literally have no plan, and I probably have one of the biggest books at the firm. I do have the biggest book at a firm of 80 lawyers. And I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying, I don't know. And you're right. I mean, almost it's really hard to do, but it doesn't seem like, I'm not saying you don't need a plan, but I feel like that would be a huge stumbling block for me if I had one.
Well, but think about it from this perspective. There are people like you that somebody would say, oh, he or she's a natural rainmaker. And there are people that have been going out for the last, 50 years, 100 years that have been able to make it rain without really knowing much about the skill of it, right? They just go out and they've got the gift. Okay. People like them. They help figure out how to help others. Other people help them, et cetera, et cetera. And then you mentioned, like, what about the introverts? What about the intellectual property patent attorneys? What about the people that don't have that natural personality and gift of gab or comfort level with it? They've got negative feelings, negative vibes about it. Okay. these are all the people that without a plan and without help in execution, they're never going to do it.
How
So
do you
you've got,
change how they talk to people though? Because they still are that person. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing that they're that person, but they're still that great technician
yeah,
who, when they get with somebody, they'll have the plan and the target and everything. They'll be like, yeah, hi. And they just start talking about trademark law. And then they just, how
yeah.
do you change that
I'm a,
personality?
yeah, I'm going to give you two answers. So first of all, I'm not changing anybody's personality. What I will do is I've been using DISC assessments for the last 20
Okay.
years.
Yep.
Okay. And when I do a DISC assessment on every lawyer I work with, and when a lawyer, let's say it's super, super introverted, okay, like all compliant focused, all right,
Yep.
what would be called a high C, that person is never going to be anything but who they are. So when I show them the assessment, it says, here's how you like to be communicated, here's how you don't. And I start teaching them when you're dealing with someone different than you, you're going to have to adapt. You're not going to change, but you're going to have to make more eye contact than you normally do. You're going to have to
Gotcha.
be okay with the distance. It can't be 6 feet. You've got to get to 3 feet from whatever it might be. And you're going to have to, but here's the thing that's beautiful about having a system. Introverted lawyers and lawyers who are uncomfortable with business development, to go out and wing it and figure it out, that's their stumbling block because it doesn't work. But if I'm telling them what to do and say, I'm giving them the plays, do this,
Gotcha.
say this, do that, say that. And they're able to use that and then see evidence that it works. Well, that's what someone that's highly compliant wants, proof and evidence. Once they get proof and evidence that something works, not taking my word for it, actually trying it and
Then
getting
they can,
results,
yeah,
then I've got them. Then I've got my claws in them for
then
forever
it's off
because
to the
now
races.
and yes, and they may not be doing $10 million, although I've seen it, okay, but they're going to get to the $1 million, $2 million mark and have the kind of life that they want and look back and go, geez, why was I so afraid of all that stuff? Right?
Right.
Because they needed something that they didn't even know existed, like having a lawyer coach or having all this, having a methodology.
Gotcha. Okay. So tell me now and about the subject matter of this second segment, a challenge that you've overcome or challenges you've overcome that would be useful and instructive to our audience of lawyers and entrepreneurs and folks like that.
I have had a lot of challenges in my life, and I'm not going to get into all of them, but they're significant. Okay, from a sick mother to I was in a plane crash in my 20s, and the list goes on and on. But I'm going to give one that's more practical. There was a time where I just had such ambition that I had 4 businesses going at the same time. I had 13 employees, 3 offices, and my overhead was so high. I think it was like 35 grand before I could like take a paycheck. Okay. And I was trying to do everything. And I really had to have a coach like help me. And he said, what do you love doing? I said, I love coaching sales. And he said, so why are you doing all these other things? I go, well, this one wanted to partner with me on executive coaching, and this person wanted to partner with me on recruiting, and and he goes, well, but do you enjoy any of that? And do you enjoy managing all those people? I go, no, I can't sleep because of it. I don't like any of it, and it's costing me a fortune. He's like, well, then why are you doing it? I go, I don't know, because I'm ambitious. That's what I'm supposed to do. So my tip for people is find what you either love to do, or even better, find what you love to do for others and
Yeah.
focus. Focus. If you want to make it rain at your firm, guess what? You can't wear 5 hats. You can't manage everybody. You can't bill 3,000 hours a year. I have a friend of mine. He bills 3,000 a year. He manages the firm. He makes it rain. And the guy is insane. And try getting a meeting scheduled with him. It's like 6 months out. Forget it.
Is he
Too
happy?
much. No, he ain't happy. He's
So, Steve,
miserable.
have him come join my firm because lawyers don't manage our firm. We'll manage the firm for him.
Now
So the
he's working, he's trying to put committees in place. I think he's trying to do the right things,
oh,
but
committees.
but the point is focus. We need to think
Right.
about what we want to do and do one thing really well.
Okay, got it. So what a fantastic point to make. And I think what you just described is what a lot of lawyers go through. I talk to so many small firms, a firm that that started in 1983 and joined us 7 years ago now. And one of my partners to this day, when he talks to new partners, he's like, I ran my own firm for 30 years. It was awful. This is the best thing I've ever done. Is not running the firm and just focusing on making your clients happy, getting your clients, keeping your clients, and doing law. It's just a different experience as a lawyer. So I think that's actually your challenge is really good advice for everyone is don't wear all those. What's that app, 7 Hats? I mean, there's some app that encourages you to wear more hats. I don't know.
Yeah, I've got all
You're
these
supposed to
side
organize.
hustles, man. I got to do my side hustles.
Yeah, the
You know.
side hustle app. Oh my gosh. So anyway, love it. Okay, well, awesome, Steve. Well, thank you. I know you're short on time. So I'm going to come back for our next episode and let's talk about the advice you have for people, even though you've given me a ton of useful advice that I'd like to share with my firm and my partners as well. We'll come back and ask you about that. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Black Letter Podcast. We'll see you next time. That's all for today's episode of Black Letter. Thanks again for listening. Join us next time when we talk about more Black Letter issues in creative ways. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode and check out our website at blackletterstudios.com.